Hi there, and welcome to Accelerate Digital Now Cloud First, the first in a series of major events in 2021, organized and hosted by T-Systems. My name is Tim Feldner, and I'm more than delighted to be your host. If you are in business today, you are also in the cloud business. Some say cloud data centers might process 80% of workloads by 2025. And this transition is affecting all areas of business, from frontline employees to C-suite executives and everyone in between. Our focus in the next 2 days is cloud first. We will show you how you can benefit most from the cloud to lead your company into the digital future. So get ready to meet your future, and let's start discussing how the future of business starts with the cloud. And here with us to officially start off Accelerate Digital Now Cloud First is T-Systems CEO Adel Al-Saleh. Hey Adel.
Hello Tim.
How are you doing?
Very good.
Thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure for us to have you with us.
Thank you.
So let's start with the first question. How do you see the future of cloud shaping our digitization journeys?
Well, digitization has been kind of the buzzword of the industry now for the last several years, right? And over the last 12 months, it has accelerated massively. And at the core of digitization is public cloud, as an enabler, as the platform, as the accelerator, which is why we call this Accelerate Digital Now. So we created this event in order to be able to help people navigate the public cloud journey, because it's so important for digitization. This is a very exciting event because we have some excellent guests and very different points of view. Not just a T-Systems point of view, but we have a lot of customers and we have a lot of our partners that play different roles within the public cloud domain. But to me, there are 4 imperatives. If I would advise anybody around public cloud migration and thinking about public cloud, that they need to take into account. Imperative number 1 is you have to build your public cloud strategy, right? And strategy means you need to think about what are the applications, which ones do I prioritize, which ones should stay on premise, which ones should go into the public cloud. It's a complex landscape that you need to think about. The second thing that I would have them think about is, the operating model is going to be very different. Where in the past, when you talked about clouds and private clouds, it was all about running large infrastructures. Well, now somebody else is going to run that infrastructure for you. So you need to figure out, okay, what is my operating model? What do I do? What does the public provider does? What does my other part, what do they do in order to give me the solution that I need? The second imperative is about changing the mindset in the organization. We see it so, even including T-Systems. You have to change the mindset of the architecture that you're going to be driving into a public cloud first mindset. And that changes how you think about deploying applications and digitizing your processes and things like that. If you don't do that, there will always be arguments and folks that will be defending the existing business model or existing model that you have, which will put you behind if you don't have that mindset of public cloud first. The third imperative is really, really important, which is establishing a clear framework of how do you actually transition to the cloud? How do you execute your strategy? And here, as T-Systems, we've developed what we call a cloud transformation or transition strategy or migration framework that combines the thousands and thousands of migrations that we've done, the experience around them, the tools, the processes, into one defined framework that our customers can use. So we've done all the homework, all the heavy lifting to make sure that they have all the tools and capabilities to be able to execute the strategy that they have. And the final thing, the final imperative, is security and data sovereignty. And those are really important questions, especially for European companies. You have to be building security in from the start of your strategy rather than an afterthought. And even though you're going into a more resilient, robust infrastructures, you still need to be thinking about business continuity plans. What happens if my application is destroyed? What happens if there's manual errors? Because majority of the incidents in the world are caused by human errors, right? It's not caused by failure of hardware, although that happens, but its majority of them is driven by human errors. And those don't disappear in a public cloud environment. So all of those things you need to think about. And of course, what do you do with your data? data sovereignty, right? Which data is okay to be in the cloud and which data must be protected and kept on in the German or whatever European or whatever country you're in that has data regulations. So those are the 4 imperatives, Tim, that are super important for a customer to think about and realize right up front that partnerships here, and I started with that in the beginning, are super important.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it by yourself. So you need to think about partnerships and how you bring them together to enable your cloud strategy.
Well, you just talked about it a little bit, so let's get into detail. How to orchestrate cloud environments for the digitization journey to get more flexibility and, of course, also resilience?
Well, so 49% of the companies, based on different research that's out there, are still in the beginning of their journey into the cloud, right? So they're still figuring this out. And the heterogeneous environments that they deal with in their enterprises, whether it's different networks or application layers or even infrastructures, makes the environment super complex. That's why I believe you need the strategy up front to define what you're going to do as a company, what's your architecture going to look like, and a deep partnership with somebody who will help you, in addition to the public cloud providers, help you move there and drive that. And then the mindset that I talked about at the beginning is super important because you have to have a public mindset first, but you also need to change your way of working. It's a different environment and it's a different way of working. So agility and DevOps becomes a real opportunity for you to drive a very different way of working within your organization. So there are a lot of things to think about. I don't want to make them daunting because if you tackle them in a structured way, it's manageable. But going in without having thought about that could create chaos for yourself.
Yeah, I see. Let's talk about migration a bit more. So how do we transfer legacy landscapes intelligently and securely with the cloud?
Well, look, Tim, this is where, rubber meets the road, as we would say, right? So you can have a great strategy, you can build that, but how do you make sure you execute that? And it really starts with your loads, right? And your applications and figuring out which applications should be moving to the cloud, which ones you shouldn't touch because they're optimized and they're not going to be there for more than a few years and therefore don't spend the energy. So doing that planning and understanding and then assessing your environment is the first step. I have a strategy, now I'm going to assess my environment, what's ready, what's not ready, build it into my strategy of what future looks like. And then it's super important to have a migration framework. And we've built this cloud migration framework, as I said earlier, that brings in years and years and decades of experience that we have in deploying clouds, transitioning from clouds into this framework in a modular way, right? So that allows customers to kind of pick and choose, what do I need to help me in order to give them a structured migration approach. What doesn't work, what we've seen in the industry is people open up clouds for development purposes. So the first implementation of public clouds in the market were all around development environments. So give the developers access to quick compute and store environments, let them play around, let them start building code in a different way. And they evolved into then the loads and applications that the companies need to work on them. If you do it that way, you face the challenge of chaos of your applications not having a clear strategy of how, where, and how you're going to transition them. So DevOps for development environments for developers is great, but you have to have a clear strategy of your core applications that you're going to go drive, and then a migration approach that's almost like a factory that allows you to move into the cloud.
Interesting. Earlier you talked about building partnerships, and that's super interesting for me because what do you think, are European companies even able to compete with all these hyperscalers like Microsoft, Amazon Web Services, and Google?
Tim, it's a really tricky question, right? If the question is about can a European company build a cloud infrastructure that would compete with these players, the answer is unlikely, right? And I don't think that's the right strategy. It's too late, right? These companies have invested for years. Yeah. It's not that they just came up yesterday, right? Microsoft has been doing it for 10 years. AWS, similar kind of framework. they've piled in billions and billions of euros and dollars and whatever currency you want to use in building the capabilities, it will be a waste of money to go and try to replicate that. However, what the European companies can do from a technology perspective is offer alternatives for sovereignty, offer migration capabilities and management of these public clouds in a way that's secure and sovereign, and work very closely with the customers to deploy clouds in a multi-cloud environments that make sense for them. In addition to software innovation and other things that they can do around the public cloud. So it is complementary rather than a head-on competition. And as a matter of fact, for us, Microsoft, we announced a major partnership with them across Deutsche Telekom Group. AWS has been a very important partner to us, and you'll hear them talk quite a bit. Google, we do some work with them as well and want to build that partnership as well. OVH is a very important sovereign cloud alternative that we're working with. And it's not, we value these partnerships deeply. And some of them deeper than others, right? Just because we're able to invest deeper in combining resources, and because it's not cheap to build the capabilities there. But we believe in an open ecosystem, right? We believe in a multi-cloud environments, right? So all these partners are important to our customers. And one may decide, I'm going to major on Microsoft, another one on AWS, another one on Google. And for us, it's what's best for the customer. And we want to be the best partner for these players, right? The partners that I described, the best, player they work with in order to help the customers.
So it's less about competition and more about co-petition.
Absolutely.
Everything for the customer.
Yes.
Perfect. Adel, thank you so much. That was extremely insightful and interesting for me. I'm pretty sure everyone wants to hear more from you, and I'm happy to say your wish is our command, because Adel is going to join our next session as well. It's going to be a panel discussion, and we should go over there, right?
We're going to go there, yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Stay with us.
Perfect. Let's take a look at the agenda, and we go over there.
Very good.